Move your feet, girl. First class isn't for people like you. The man's voice was low, sharp as the click of his belt buckle. I said move. Gasps rippled along the jet bridge like wind through blinds. Flight 218 to New York. Boarding paused midstream. People froze with carry-ons half lifted, tickets trembling in unsure fingers. The airport speakers hummed above it all, steady, unaware. 12-year-old twins, Maya and Nina Coleman, stood shoulder to shoulder, boarding passes in hand. Their braids brushed their shoulders as they tried not to shake. Rows of passengers stared. Some looked away. No one stepped in. Then the man's knee jolted forward. A swift, ugly movement. It wasn't a shove that sent them flying. Just a kick to Maya's ankle. Barely enough to bruise. More than enough to humiliate. She stumbled. Nina caught her elbow, eyes wide, throat tight. "Sir, please," she whispered. Their father, Marcus Coleman, 53, tall, calm, suit neatly pressed, was 3 bodies back. He saw. He froze, only for a heartbeat, like a camera flash. Then everything inside him moved at once. "Stop," Marcus said, voice steady but rising. He stepped between his daughters and the man. Caldwell Pierce, mid-60s, silver hair, navy blazer. The kind of man who looked like he owned the aisle, the plane, the sky. "Do not touch my children again." Passengers watched. Phones lifted. A flight attendant hesitated, eyes flicking to gate agents, to procedure, to fear of escalation. The hum of the AC blended with the thrum of tension. A mother in line whispered, "Do something." A businessman muttered, "Don't get involved." A young veteran clenched his jaw. No one moved. Marcus inhaled once. Slow. Controlled. His daughters stood behind him, trembling but upright. Then he reached calmly into his coat. Not a weapon. Not a threat. Just a small black ID badge with a silver crest. The kind no ordinary passenger carried. Caldwell blinked. Gate staff leaned forward. A camera shutter clicked. Somewhere behind the scenes, in a server room built to never sleep, a network light blinked, yellow, then red. 60 seconds later, in a chain no one on that jet bridge could yet see, 152 airports across the country began going offline. Marcus did not raise his voice. He only said softly, "You have no idea who you just touched. Enjoying this? Tap subscribe for tomorrow's story." 6 hours earlier, Dallas was still shaking off the morning haze. In a quiet brick house in Arlington, Marcus Coleman stood in front of a hallway mirror, adjusting his tie with the same deliberate care he used for every decision in his life. Behind him, twin faces appeared in the reflection. "Daddy, you're strangling yourself again," Maya said. Marcus loosened the knot a fraction and smiled. "I like breathing, thank you, Dr. Coleman." Nina leaned against the doorframe, hugging a worn backpack with a keychain shaped like a tiny airplane. "Are you sure we're allowed to sit up front?" "Like legally." Marcus turned, letting the tie fall perfectly between his lapels. "Legally," he said, "you can sit anywhere your ticket says you sit." Maya bit her lip. "But people are gonna stare." "They stare anyway," Nina murmured. Marcus's smile softened. He knelt so his eyes were level with theirs. Up close, the faint lines at the corners of his eyes were clearer, the lines of meetings, late flights, and promises kept. "Look at me," he said. They did. "You both worked hard all year. Your grades, your chores, helping Grandma. I travel too much. So today is special. First class isn't about who looks like they belong. It's about who paid, who earned, and who has a right to be treated with respect. Even if," Nina's voice trailed off, "even if we're the only ones who look like us in that cabin." Marcus finished gently. Maya gave the smallest nod. Marcus held their gazes. Especially then. In the kitchen, the clock ticked toward their departure time. A muted TV scrolled news about airport delays and cybersecurity drills. Just more noise in the background of America's day. On the table, next to 3 boarding passes to New York, Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown caller, Federal line. He glanced at it, jaw flexing. Then he turned it face down. "Work?" Maya asked. "Work can wait an hour," Marcus said. "Today I'm just dad." But the weight of that unseen world still sat on his shoulders, the one where his signature could reroute planes, where his caution could prevent disasters. He lived between 2 skies, the one his girls saw from their bedroom window, and the invisible one of systems and codes and obligations. He had spent decades building systems to keep strangers safe. Today, he wanted to keep two very specific people safe. At Dallas-Fort Worth, the traffic was thick, but the twins chattered through it. About the museums they would see in New York, the pizza they'd try, the view from the hotel window. As they wheeled their suitcases into the terminal, the familiar airport sounds wrapped around them. Rolling bags, distant announcements, the soft murmur of tired travelers. Marcus led them toward security, his posture relaxed but alert, eyes unconsciously mapping exits, cameras, lines. "Dad," Nina whispered as they neared the first-class check-in desk. "They're looking. Somewhere." A few glances too long. Curious, measuring, surprised. Marcus didn't speed up, didn't slow down. He simply placed their 3 passports on the counter and said, "Good morning, ma'am. We're on Flight 218 to New York." The agent smiled. "First class, very nice. You all together." "All together," Marcus said quietly. Maya's hand slipped into his. Her palm was damp. "Boarding should start in about 45 minutes, the agent said. "Lounge access is on your left, if you'd like." As they moved away, Nina whispered, "I feel like everyone could tell we don't belong here." Marcus looked around, noticing a businessman typing furiously, tired grandmother knitting, a young couple arguing softly over directions. "They don't know your story," he said. "That's all." They settled near the gate. The twins shared headphones. Marcus opened a folder he always carried, thick with papers and printouts. Words like infrastructure, redundancy, national incident peeked from the top page. He closed it again. When the gate agent finally announced, "Now pre-boarding for first-class passengers on Flight 218, the twins' eyes met his. "Ready?" he asked. Maya swallowed. "Ready." Nina nodded, but her voice trembled. "We walk up front, with everyone watching." Marcus stood, straightening his jacket. "We walk up front because those are our seats." They wheeled their bags toward the priority lane. From across the seating area, an older man in a navy blazer, Caldwell Pierce, watched the twins step confidently into the first-class line. His eyes narrowed. His fingers tightened around his boarding pass. He rose to his feet. Caldwell Pierce approached the line with a slow certainty, like a man convinced the world would part for him. His shoes clicked sharply across the polished floor, each step neat, practiced, entitled. The twins felt him before they saw him. Presence. A shadow. Marcus glanced back once. A long moment passed, silent, measuring. The gate agent scanned Maya's ticket first. "Welcome aboard, Miss Coleman." Then Nina's. Then Marcus's. They stepped down the jet bridge, wheels humming softly beneath them. The smell of jet fuel and recycled air carried memories of Marcus's countless work trips. But this time, he walked beside his daughters. This time mattered. 30 passengers filed behind them, murmuring, adjusting bags, stepping aside. Caldwell remained 3 spots back, eyes fixed on the girls like a puzzle he meant to correct. Maya whispered, "Daddy, he keeps staring." Marcus kept his pace smooth. "Eyes forward, sweetheart." But inside him, something tightened. At the aircraft door, a young flight attendant named Grace Turner, 28, greeted them with a tired but genuine smile. "Good afternoon. Seats 2A, 2B, 2C are just to your left." Nina brightened a little. Maya exhaled. The large seats looked like clouds, wide, soft, with blankets folded perfectly on the armrest. The girls slid into them, backpacks tucked neatly under the wide footrests. Marcus stood to place carry-ons overhead. His badge, small, black, silver crest, glinted as his sleeve shifted. Grace noticed, her eyes flickering with polite recognition she didn't voice. Government ID, level unknown. A door she wasn't trained to open. He closed the bin gently. "Everyone good?" The twins nodded, shoulders lowering. Then Caldwell stepped in. He didn't look at Marcus first. He looked at the twins, directly, coolly, as though weighing a breach of order. His seat was across the aisle, 2D. Too close. Grace began her welcome speech, but he cut through it with a voice meant to carry. "These are first-class seats." Maya blinked at him. Nina shrank back. Marcus turned, polite but firm. "Yes," he said, "they are." Caldwell's jaw moved once, like he was working something bitter across his tongue. "They must be in the wrong place," he said. "First class is reserved for." Marcus didn't let him finish. For anyone holding a first-class ticket, passengers nearby paused mid-buckle. A businessman shifted uncomfortably. An older woman frowned into her magazine. Eyes flicked between faces like spectators waiting to see which way the match would tilt. But Caldwell kept going. "I've flown this route for years," he said, voice tightening. "I know what kind of passengers sit here." Marcus's reply was calm, measured. "So do I." Grace stepped forward, gentle authority in her voice. "Sir, all passengers seated here are ticketed appropriately. If there's a concern..." Caldwell waved her off. "I'll handle this." The twins flinched. Marcus rose halfway, one hand resting on Nina's arm like an anchor. "Sir," Marcus said, low, controlled, "you are speaking to children. Lower your voice." Caldwell leaned closer, not close enough to break rules, just close enough to show intent. His blazer smelled faintly of cologne and old habits. The plane doors were still open. The jet bridge buzzed with passengers waiting. He whispered, but the girls heard every word. "Some cabins have standards. Some seats should be earned." Nina's fingers curled against the armrest. Maya's chin lifted an inch, brave but trembling. Marcus inhaled, a slow, steady breath meant to keep dignity intact. "Seats earned," he repeated softly. "Our seats occupied. Everything after happened too fast for logic, too slow for mercy." Caldwell shifted. A forward jerk of his knee. A small kick. A stumble. A gasp behind them. A silence so sharp it rang like metal. Maya steadied herself with Nina's help. Her voice was barely a breath. "Daddy." Grace froze. Passengers froze. The line stalled on the jet bridge. Someone raised their phone. Marcus stood fully now, tall, unmoving. The badge inside his jacket pressed against his chest like a weight waking up. His eyes were no longer just a father's. They were something else. Something Caldwell should have recognized. Grace's voice finally returned, thin but urgent. "Sir, please take your seat. We cannot board the rest of the aircraft until..." Caldwell didn't look at her. His focus remained fixed on Marcus, as though the kick had been nothing but an inconvenience, an adjustment to the universe as he believed it should be. Maya and Nina leaned together, hands locked. Their eyes were wide but unbroken, waiting for their father to speak, to move, to anchor them again. Marcus's tone, when it came, was quiet enough that only the first few rows heard. "You touched my child." Caldwell's chin lifted. A tap. "You people overreact to everything." A ripple went through the cabin, soft, shocked inhales, a shifting of bodies. Lines drawn without words. Some passengers stiffened with disapproval. Others folded inward, wishing to disappear. The moment hung like static. Grace tried again, firmer. "Mr. Pierce, you must sit. We'll address any complaints after takeoff." He ignored her. He leaned closer to Marcus, as if speaking under a ceiling only they shared. "It's not personal," he murmured. "Some spaces were built for a certain class of traveler. You know that." Marcus didn't move, didn't blink. He could feel the hum of the aircraft beneath his shoes, the engines idle, waiting. A sound he knew too well. The sound of systems in balance until someone broke them. Behind Caldwell in the jet bridge, passengers craned necks, frustration growing. A mother with a toddler shifted her weight and whispered, "Why is no one stopping him?" A veteran in row 3 clenched and unclenched his jaw. Grace's radio crackled with a call from the cockpit. "Status?" She answered shakily, boarding paused. Maya's voice trembled like a dropped pin. "Dad, it's okay. We're okay." Marcus looked at her then, not with fear, but with a sadness carved deep. "No, sweetheart," he said softly. "It is not okay." He stood fully, shoulders level, posture poised, not confrontational, just undeniable. "Grace," he said evenly, "please call security." Caldwell scoffed. "Security? For what? I have flown first class since before those girls were born." Marcus met his gaze without flinching. "And today you forgot how to behave like someone who earned it." Phones were raised now, 3, maybe 4. Not for spectacle, but for witness. A businessman in row 1 shifted forward as if considering intervention, then stopped, hands frozen midair. Marcus reached into his coat and withdrew the black ID badge again, not thrusting it forward, simply holding it where light could find the emblem. Silver. Shield-shaped. Federal. Grace inhaled sharply. Caldwell's eyes flicked down, and something wavered. Not apology, not regret, but recognition. A door in his certainty creaked, unwelcome. You think a title makes you better than me? He said. No, Marcus answered. Only accountable. The words were not loud, but they carried. Grace raised her radio again, voice steadier, requesting terminal officers to gate C-17. Immediate response needed. Passengers shifted. A line attendant stepped closer. Caldwell's jaw flexed tightly as if holding back the next crude sentence he'd been ready to deliver. But it was not Caldwell who changed the room. It was the sound. A soft chime, barely noticeable, came from Marcus's pocket. One tone, not an alarm. A notification on a device most people never carried. Marcus's expression changed. Not anger, not fear, but decision. He silenced the alert without looking down. The girls watched him, breath held. Outside the cabin, boarding halted completely. Inside, a moment stretched tall as a skyscraper. Marcus spoke, calm and absolute. You've crossed a line you do not understand. Caldwell opened his mouth, ready to retort, to reclaim control, but voices rose behind him. Security was coming. And far beyond that jet bridge, unseen by anyone here, the first tremor in a national system had begun to move. 2 transportation security officers stepped into the jet bridge. Officer Howard, early 40s, calm-eyed and steady, and Officer Renee Miller, mid-30s, voice like steel wrapped in patience. Grace stepped back, relief washing across her face like color returning. Thank you for coming, she murmured. We have a passenger dispute, possible physical contact against a minor. Passengers parted as the officers approached row 2. Caldwell stood straighter, adjusting his blazer like armor. Marcus remained still, one hand resting lightly on the girls' seat backs, not protective by force, but by presence. Officer Howard kept his tone neutral. Sir, we need to speak with you. Let's step onto the jet bridge. No, Caldwell said flatly. This is ridiculous. I boarded first. I pay for this seat. I'm not going anywhere. Howard didn't raise his voice. Sir, we can do this calmly or escalate. Your choice. Caldwell scoffed. Escalate, then. I refuse to be reprimanded because someone doesn't like who sits near them. Renee turned to Maya and Nina, kneeling to their eye level, a rare softness in a hard moment. Are you girls hurt? Maya shook her head. Just scared. Nina whispered. He kicked her. Not hard. Just to move us. Renee nodded, jaw tightening. Thank you for telling me. You did nothing wrong. Caldwell exhaled sharply. Good grief. You're treating a tap like violence. Marcus's voice held steady ground. Intent matters. Caldwell turned, eyes narrowing. Don't lecture me. I know more about flying etiquette than. He stopped, searching for a word that wouldn't trap him. There wasn't one. Marcus looked directly into his eyes. Then a father who works to keep every flight in this country safe? A silence snapped into place. Caldwell blinked. What did you say? Maya and Nina looked up at their father, realizing finally that the badge wasn't decorative. Renee's gaze sharpened. Sir, what agency is that? Marcus didn't answer immediately. He slid the badge forward just enough for the officers to see the crest clearly. Their expressions changed. Not fear. Not all. Recognition. Officer Howard straightened. Sir, understood. Do you need us to remove the passenger? Marcus exhaled very slowly, a choice weighing on breath. He could simply say yes. End the conflict cleanly. But conflict wasn't the deepest wound here. Humiliation was. For his daughters. For every child told, not here. So he spoke the truth with no raise in volume, no tremor. I need accountability, he said. Not revenge. Howard nodded once, a promise in the gesture. Mr. Pierce, please step aside now. But Caldwell's grip tightened on his boarding pass like a man clinging to the last inch of his imagined height. No, he said. I will not be marched off like a criminal. I have status. I have. The cabin lights flickered. Just once. Barely noticeable, except to Marcus, whose eyes lifted instantly toward the overhead panel. A system hiccup. Not local. He felt it like a shift in weather. Passengers murmured. Grace tapped the intercom, unsure. Outside, a gate monitor momentarily flashed to black before returning. Marcus's phone buzzed again, one discreet vibration. A coded alert few people in America could receive. His shoulders tensed. Renee noticed. "Sir, everything okay?" Marcus swallowed. "It won't be," he said quietly. "If this continues to escalate." Another flicker. Not lights this time. The airport Wi-Fi reset, screens blinking, status boards refreshing. A ripple across terminals like birds startled into flight. Unseen. Growing. Maya leaned forward, voice fragile. "Dad, what's happening?" Marcus placed a steady hand over hers. Something I hoped would never be triggered. He turned to Caldwell, not angry, just unbearably calm. "You set a chain reaction in motion the moment you put your hands on my daughter," he said. "And I need you to step away before it reaches the next stage." Caldwell stared back, confused, and for the first time, unsure. Outside the cabin, Officer Howard reached for his radio. Inside Marcus's phone, the warning pulsed again. One step closer to darkness. The second vibration came not as a chime, but a system priority ping, a tone Marcus had only ever heard during simulations. Not drills. Not practice. Real. Marcus pressed a discreet button on the side of his phone. A lock screen appeared, black with a single line of white text. National Airspace Authority. Security override pending authorization required immediately. Grace saw nothing. Passengers heard nothing. But Marcus felt everything. His badge wasn't ceremonial. His career wasn't just travel and meetings. Marcus Coleman was Deputy Director of Critical Aviation Systems, one of 7 people in the country capable of triggering or halting a Tier 3 shutdown of U.S. flight operations. Normally, the system slept behind layers of security, untouchable. But one condition could wake it, a potential threat involving a federal-level officer in transit. Caldwell's aggression, captured on 3 active phones, 2 security feeds, and Grace's mandatory incident log, wasn't just rudeness anymore. It had flagged Marcus as a compromised federal asset, and now the system waited up for his command. Marcus closed his eyes for one agonizing second. He could stand down, tell the network he was safe, end a chain, let the airports continue as normal. He could also report escalated threat, automatically freezing hubs, grounding flights, locking terminals in minutes. A father choosing between dignity and national stability. He opened his eyes. "Grace," he said softly, "I need you to act as witness." She nodded, pulse racing. "Officers," Marcus continued, "remove Mr. Pierce to the jet bridge for questioning." Without force. Caldwell laughed, thin, brittle. "You think waving a badge makes you king of the skies?" "No," Marcus replied. "But it gives me the authority to protect my children and every passenger in this plane." The cabin held its breath. Officer Howard stepped closer. Renee mirrored his movement. Caldwell's posture changed, narrow shoulders rising like a man preparing to resist. Then the intercom crackled. "This is gate control. We're seeing irregularities in system connectivity. Are you aware of any onboard issues?" Marcus's jaw tightened. Too soon. He needed 5 more minutes, just 5 to de-escalate before the network's automated threshold tipped. Caldwell heard it and mistook the moment for leverage. "No one is removing me," he barked. "If anything, he should leave. People like him get special treatment for nothing." A beat. Breath. Maya whispered to Nina, "Why does he hate us?" The question cut deeper than any kick. That was the moment Marcus knew. Backing down would teach his daughters that humiliation was a price for peace. Standing firm might cost the country an hour of chaos, but it could give his girls a lifetime of knowing their dignity was non-negotiable. Marcus slowly raised his phone. His thumb hovered over the authorization field. Caldwell scoffed. "You wouldn't dare." Marcus met his gaze, not angry, but resolute. "I won't let you teach my children that silence is safety." He pressed authorize hold. For one breath, nothing moved. Then the airport lights flickered. Gate monitors cut off to emergency routing mode. A chime rolled across concourses like thunder traveling through circuits. Within seconds, Dallas-Fort Worth ground traffic halted. Within minutes, other airports pinged the same alert. The aviation network, sensing unverified threat to national security, entered Tier 3 lockdown. Airports dimmed one by one. Grace covered her mouth. Passengers stared, stunned. Caldwell went pale. Marcus exhaled, steady, deliberate. "Mr. Pierce," he said quietly, "you just shut down half the country because you couldn't share a row with 2 children, and now the consequences were coming." The cabin speaker let out a single tone, low, unwavering, like a continent taking breath. Then the captain's voice entered, careful as someone stepping onto ice they are not sure will hold. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a nationwide systems interruption. All boarding procedures are suspended. Remain seated. Do not leave the aircraft unless instructed." Gasps rolled through the cabin like wind across tall grass. A man in row 3 muttered, "Dear God." A woman murmured she needed to call her husband. Someone whispered, "This is like 9/11, and Grace quickly, firmly reminded everyone, "Nothing suggests danger. Please stay calm." Marcus stood very still. He had triggered the hold, not a shutdown. If he acted fast, if Caldwell complied, operations could restart within 15 minutes. But the system, now awake, was watching him, waiting for proof that he was secure. Caldwell stared around in disbelief. "What did you do?" His voice, once full of superiority, now contained something raw, fear, anger, disbelief tangled like wire. Marcus didn't raise his voice. "I gave you every chance to stop. You escalated. You put your hands on a child. And when authority intervened, you resisted." Caldwell pointed at him, voice cracking. "You're destroying the country over feelings." Marcus stepped forward, not threatening, simply present. "This isn't about feelings. This is about accountability. I triggered a containment protocol to prevent escalation. If I'm compromised, the network must know. If there is conflict, the network must see resolution. So this is my fault?" Caldwell snapped. "No," Marcus answered. "This is your moment to choose who you are." The words hung in the silence. Officer Renee moved first. Calm. Measured. "Mr. Pierce, please step into the jet bridge now. Cooperate, and this ends today. Refuse, and you may be held for federal obstruction." Passengers watched, silent jurors. Caldwell looked at each of them, eyes desperate to find an ally, a witness who'd call him right. Power had always come easily to him, but now the cabin refused to give it back. He swallowed. His voice shrank. "They don't belong up here." Not shouted. Not defiant. Just naked belief. Maya flinched. Nina's eyes watered. Marcus did not break his gaze. "My daughters belong anywhere they walk with dignity, including here." Another vibration pulsed through Marcus's phone. Final warning. Authentication window closing, require resolution in 90 seconds. He had 90 seconds to prove he was safe and in control. 90 seconds to prevent the system from escalating into full shutdown. Howard spoke quietly. "Sir, if he boards off willingly, will that resolve the trigger?" Marcus nodded once. Renee turned to Caldwell. "Mr. Pierce, your decision." Now, Caldwell's lips trembled, not from weakness, but from losing a lifetime of unchallenged comfort. The twins sat silent, watching a man decide whether to grow or break. Caldwell finally whispered, "Fine." Howard gestured toward the jet bridge. Renee walked beside him. No handcuffs. No force. Just accountability. As Caldwell passed Marcus, he stopped. His voice was barely breath. "I didn't know who you were." Marcus replied softly, "It never should have mattered." Caldwell looked away. He disappeared down the jet bridge. Marcus lifted his phone and pressed confirm secure. The system responded. One chime, then another. The emergency routing screens blinked back to life. Airport Wi-Fi resumed. Gate monitors reloaded. The Tier 3 hold began releasing, one hub at a time, like lights returning across a map of America. Passengers exhaled in relief. Grace wiped tears she didn't know she'd been holding. The captain confirmed clearance to resume boarding. Behind row 2C, Maya whispered, "Dad, you stopped the shutdown." Marcus knelt between them, voice low and gentle. "No," he said. "We stopped it because you stood tall." Outside, order returned. Inside, something much larger had changed. In Caldwell, in the witnesses, in two young girls who would grow up remembering this day not with fear, but with truth. 30 minutes later, the plane sat still, jetway connected, engines off, heat shimmering tarmac beyond the windows. Boarding resumed cautiously, slowly, as though everyone feared one wrong breath could collapse the fragile calm Marcus had restored. Marcus guided Maya and Nina back into their seats. His hands were steady, but the weight behind his eyes was visible, like someone who had held a door against a storm and still heard thunder behind it. Grace approached, kneeling slightly to meet the twins' gaze. "You two showed a lot of courage," she said softly. "Not everyone could have stayed that calm." Maya nodded. Nina offered a tiny smile. They were still shaken, but they sat upright, shoulders a little straighter, eyes more sure. Marcus watched them, pride rising with a quiet ache. Grace turned to Marcus. "Federal involvement means I'll have to file a detailed report. A lot of people will read it. Are you prepared for that?" "Yes," Marcus said. "Every detail." She hesitated. "Including the shutdown you triggered?" Marcus answered without apology. "Especially that." The cabin absorbed his words. Passengers exchanged looks, some nodding, some whispering about heroes and procedures and how quickly dignity could tilt the world. Rowan's businessman stood and extended a hand. "I should have spoken up earlier," he said, shame in his voice. "I saw it. I should have said something. I'm sorry." Marcus shook his hand gently. "It's never too late to do the right thing." An older woman beside him dabbed her eyes. "Your girls handle themselves with grace. I hope mine would have done the same." Maya's voice was small but firm. "We were scared." "Bravery isn't the absence of fear," Marcus told her, hearing his own father in his tone. "Bravery is standing anyway." Officer Howard re-entered the cabin, nodding respectfully. "Mr. Coleman, Mr. Pierce has been removed for questioning," he reported. "He isn't under arrest yet, but he's shaken. Said he needs time to think." Marcus breathed out slowly. A long-held tension eased from his shoulders. Renee followed with a tablet in hand. "We'll need your statement before departure. And the girls, if they're willing." Nina squeezed Maya's hand. They nodded together. Marcus smiled faintly. "They'll speak." Passengers leaned closer, but not to gawk, to listen. Because now this wasn't a spectacle. It was witness. Howard cleared his throat. "Because of the temporary hold you initiated, agency officials are requesting a conference call within the hour. They want documentation. Full context." Marcus expected that. He also welcomed it. "I'll attend," he said. "But my daughters fly with me. We finished this trip together." Howard gave a measured, respectful bow of his head. "Understood." Grace exhaled, relief softening her shoulders. She opened the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We'll be departing shortly. Flight time to New York is just under 3 hours." When she ended the announcement, applause broke out, not loud, but genuine. A warm ripple that traveled through the cabin like sunlight through curtains. Marcus didn't soak in it. He simply placed a hand over each daughter's and whispered, "You were never out of place here." Outside, baggage handlers moved and jet fuel trucks aligned as the world resumed its rhythm. Inside, something permanent had shifted, not just for Marcus, but for everyone who had watched courage flicker into consequence. The price of dignity had been high, but the reward was higher still. The aircraft lifted into the evening sky like a slow breath finally released. Sunlight poured across the clouds in soft gold, and for the first time since the jet bridge confrontation, Maya's shoulders eased. Nina leaned against the window, watching the world grow small beneath them. Marcus sat between them, hands folded, phone muted, badge tucked away. Not a symbol. Not leverage. Just a reminder of responsibility. Grace approached quietly, clipboard in hand. "When you're ready, we can take your statements." "No rush." Marcus nodded. "We'll start now." The girls exchanged glances, fear still there, but surrounded now by courage instead of silence. Grace kneeled. "All right, tell me what happened." "Use your own words." Maya spoke first. "He told us we didn't belong." Her voice didn't shake this time. Nina added, "Then he kicked my sister. Not to hurt her, just to move her. Like she was something in his way." Grace wrote every word, eyes steady, no interruptions. When she finished, she looked up. "Thank you. You both did the right thing by telling the truth." Howard later sat with Marcus near the galley. The hum of engines filled the quiet like white noise in a hospital wing. "Federal Review Board will want follow-up," Howard said. They'll ask why you didn't stand down sooner. Marcus considered his reply, turning the words carefully in his mind like stones that needed smoothing. I weighed national impact, he said, and personal impact. For years, I've defended systems built to protect strangers. But today, the danger wasn't structural. It was human. And my daughters needed to see what protection looks like when it has a face. Howard nodded slowly. Understood. For what it's worth, I'd have done the same. It was not official approval. It didn't need to be. Back in row 2, passengers relaxed, headphones on, books open, drinks clinking quietly. Flight attendants moved with calm efficiency, offering ginger ale and pretzels as though the nation hadn't just flickered in and out of operational pulse. A woman across the aisle, gray hair, soft voice, leaned over. I teach middle school, she said gently. Sometimes kids need to see adults choose courage, not comfort. You gave them that. Marcus bowed his head in gratitude. But the resolution wasn't applause. It wasn't vindication. It was the sound of Maya laughing, quietly, freely, as Nina pointed out shapes in the clouds. That one looks like a puppy, Nina said. No, Maya argued softly. More like a bear. Marcus listened like a man hearing rain after drought. He pulled out a small notebook, the one he kept for work, filled with acronyms and contingency charts. On the last page, he wrote something he had never entered into an operational manual. Dignity is infrastructure. Protect it like power. Uphold it like safety. The plane banked east. New York drew closer. Grace passed by once more. If you need anything, just tap the call button. Marcus smiled. We're okay now. Maya leaned her head on his right shoulder. Nina leaned on his left. For the first time since the shutdown, Marcus closed his eyes, not from fatigue, but from fullness. The crisis had passed. But its meaning would not. He whispered, not to the cabin, not to the officers, but to his daughters. You belong in every room you walk into. They squeezed his hands. And somewhere far below, 152 airports continued humming, systems online, secure, unaware that today had not been a disruption, but a recalibration. 3 months later, September. A gentle breeze moved through Dallas-Fort Worth like the airport was exhaling after a long season. Marcus stood in Terminal C again, but this time without a badge clipped near his heart, without a system waiting to detect danger in his footsteps. He carried only a camera, a small backpack, and the hands of his daughters. No trembling now, only warmth. The security officer waved them through with a smile. Afternoon, Mr. Coleman. Heard you're speaking at the Aviation Safety Forum. Marcus nodded. Just sharing what we learned. What everyone learned. Not from theory. From one moment that bent the air in a jet bridge and echoed across the country. The incident report had circulated, heavily anonymized, through internal aviation channels. It sparked a federal review on passenger conflict standards. Policies were updated, not dramatic, but real. New de-escalation training, support protocols for minors, clearer consequences when dignity was violated. Airports didn't change overnight, but they changed. Today, Maya and Nina wore matching backpacks, each stitched with a tiny embroidered airplane, a quiet symbol of a day they refused to be pushed aside. Think he'll be here? Maya asked as they walked through the atrium. Marcus paused, knowing who she meant. Caldwell Pierce, the man who kicked a child in passing, then watched the nation blink in response. He had not been jailed. He had not been paraded or ruined. But he had been required to attend mandatory equity counseling and complete community service at a youth outreach program. Marcus requested it personally. Justice, not vengeance. As they reached the conference hall, Marcus spotted him. Caldwell standing near a registration desk, posture smaller, eyes softer. He hesitated before approaching the Colemans. Like a man carrying something heavy, he was no longer sure he wished to keep. He stopped 3 steps away. Maya and Nina looked up. Caldwell's voice was quiet, stripped of pride, stripped of entitlement. I came to watch your father speak, he said. If you'll allow it. Marcus held his gaze. You're welcome to hear the truth. Caldwell swallowed. I want to. He turned to the girls, but didn't step closer. I was wrong, he managed, the words slow but real. You belong there. I just didn't see it. I'm trying to see better now. Nina nodded once. Maya gave a small, polite thank you. Not forgiveness, not erasure, but a door opening. Inside the auditorium, Marcus approached the podium. Cameras lifted, pins poised. He didn't begin with the shutdown, or the badge, or the threat protocol. He began with a moment. Two children stood in a place they earned, and someone thought their presence was a mistake. He let silence breathe. Safety is not just metal detectors, nor radar, nor runway clearance. Safety is dignity. When dignity fails, systems tremble. People leaned in, executives, pilots, crew, ground staff. Not to hear drama, but to hear truth. Airports connect cities. Dignity connects people. Lose one, and the other follows. He ended with no applause prompt, no flourish. He simply stepped back. Hands came together naturally, a thoughtful, steady sound like engines spooling with purpose. After the girls hugged him, tight, grounding, proud. Outside the conference hall windows, a plane rose into evening light, smooth, confident, carried by systems invisible, protected by principles newly strengthened. Marcus watched it climb and felt peace, not because the world was perfect, but because this one story had nudged it forward. Maya squeezed his hand. Nina leaned into him. Dad, they said together, smiling. We know we belong. Marcus nodded, heart full. Yes, he said, you always did. Andy, thanks for watching.